base on. SI joint, do you know what your SI joint is? Sucker there. Yeah. Andrew, this is Andrew's specialty. And he could elaborate a lot more on this, yeah.
So there's two SI joints that form part of the pelvis here, one on each side. You can see the big joints here. They've got a certain degree of movement, so they talk about between 4 and 10 degrees of motion in the actual sacrum in the centre here, coming forward and backward. So having good pelvic motion and SI joint motion is critical because you've got hamstrings attached down the bottom. You've got QLs attached across the top here. You've got abs attached through the front. You've got quads coming in and around there as well. So it determines the whole balance for the lower spine, what's happening with legs and upper part of the leg, as well as around the pelvis there, and it determines the amount of tilt forward and backward. So having SI joint function is critical. It works with the sacrum a little bit like a keystone and an arch. So if you know an arch over a doorway, it's made of stone, has a keystone in the top which is kind of tapered in shape that locks everything into place. This is the human keystone, but it needs to be mobile in the human being. That's the difference. So it's so complex because of that mobility. And the arch comes up one leg, comes through here and goes down the other leg. So that's what locks everything in to be able to transmit the weight through the spine and down into the pelvis and to the legs. But at the same time, it needs that mobility for motion, movement, running, exercise and activity, but even in deliveries for pregnancy. So it needs to be able to wing and open up the bottom of the pelvis there as well. So it's got forward, backward motion and a degree of winging and a degree of rotation. So it's three-dimensional movement in there as well, so it's incredibly complex.
So someone who came up to you and said, I'm actually suffering from SI joint pain, are they going to sort of say, I've got a point sort of right here? Or are they going to
the classic for SI joint pain is usually bang, straight over the dimple at the back here.
They can normally always point to exactly the spot, like someone driving a needle into their back, as opposed to, I've got kind of a bar of pain across my back, which is more sort of a tissue inflammation type thing.
But the key thing to remember with SIs is the side they point to may not be the side of the problem. It's often the other side. So if the other side's locked up and not working and moving well, then the side where the pain is moving too much and overcompensating, and that's causing irritation. Sometimes we'll find it's on the same side, but I'd say it's kind of 50-50, and the trap for young players is to go and look at everything on the painful side and check out all the balance of muscles and so on the painful side and forget about the other side. But again, as Jason was saying, with glute medius and the QLs on opposite sides, creating that sort of a change, then you've got to bear in mind that what happens in terms of motion on one side is critical for the other side, and you can't change one side of an SI or an SI on one side without changing the SI on the other side, because it's a closed ring through the pelvis. Okay, so it's all meshed in together.
And something you'll see with clients, so you've probably seen a lot of it over the years, is SI joint issues. So from studies of a guy called Vladimir Yander, who's a Czech neurologist and physio, he's the first guy to combine neurology with physio, associated weakness with glute max. We often see, even when we'll test activation, I'll show you how to test activation for gluteus maximus, but we often see weakness in one of the glute maxes with people who have SI joint issues. Weak glute max also with early activation of biceps femoris, which causes then pain up through the sacrotuberous ligament. This is also studies of usual tuberosity, so things like that. So don't worry too much about all this sort of technical stuff. Again, you'll do the test. This is why you see how simplified the goXpro is. Originally you need to know all this and understand it all.
Well, it's good to know it anyway.
Yeah, you want to know the theory behind it, but just know, don't be overwhelmed by stuff. You just come in and go, well, I've seen this, I've done this test on the person, she'll see how to do it. You just click what you see.
Yeah.
And it automatically will add a couple of exercises to counteract or sort of fix that problem anyway. So.